Hello, this is Tiara,
Hello, this is Allie.
and this is good. This is and this is the Goddess Vibration. Welcome back to another episode. So, in our last episode, we switched gears a little bit, and we talked about. Oh my God, what did we talk about? Already off to a bad start.
We were talking about relationships and frequencies, and how if you are in a relationship and if a person wants to heal during the time period of that relationship, then your frequencies may not match. And the person healing, as they're ascending, they will issues in the relationships can arise when this happens because you're just not energetically aligned anymore.
Yes, and if you haven't listened to that episode, please do because it could give you clarity in regards to some dynamics that you might be experiencing in your own romantic relationship. We're not here to judge people's relationships, but we do want to give a little bit of guidance and wisdom because I think it could help a lot of people who are trying to understand why their relationship is the way it is, or if perhaps they're having struggles. It could help you. So please do go ahead and take a listen to that episode if you haven't heard it. I'm really excited to talk about this topic today because I see a lot of chatter around this. And I think that there's a lot of confusion in regards to how to take advantage of this type of experience. So, what I'm referring to is angel numbers. And for those of you who are not aware, angel numbers are repeating sequences of numbers that you might see once you embark on a spiritual journey, or perhaps after you've had an awakening, or, maybe just out of nowhere and you don't know why. So I'm talking about looking at the clock and seeing like 111, 222, 333, 444, or looking on, you know, billboards and seeing phone numbers that have repeating numbers,
Or license plate numbers.
or license plate numbers.
They're
Um,
everywhere.
they are, and me and Allie see these freaking everywhere all the time. And I remember early on in my spiritual journey, like maybe not that long after I'd had my awakening, I was seeing master number 11, and I was seeing it everywhere. And like to the point where I was seeing like graffiti on buildings with the number 11. And I was seeing it on like license plates and that kind of thing. And I was ignoring it, right? I was just like, I don't know what this means. I really don't care. I got other stuff to worry about. Um, but I saw it one time. I was being bombarded at this point, and it wasn't just 11. It was like, 111, 11, 11. I know that's a big one. A lot of people see 222, 333. And I was driving, and there was a car in front of me, and I looked at their plate, and it said 11, but it was spelled out in letters like ELEVEN, and it was so loud. And I was like, okay, clearly there's something here for me I need to look into. I think Spirit's trying to tell me something. Let me start diving into it. So, we're going to talk a little bit about how that process works because I feel like what a lot of people do is they see these angel numbers, they don't know what they mean, they get frustrated, they ignore them, and they don't stop. It's like this never ending cycle. I'm of the belief, and I'm sure some people might believe this, some might not, that angel numbers are being shown to you because there's something that you either need to recognize or shift, or something's being brought to your attention and you need to pay attention to it. That's my belief. And I think that because when I've done that and tried to extrapolate what the message is, they almost always stop, at least for a period of time, and then I get a little peace for a little bit. So that's my perspective on it. And I think Allie's in agreement, but I think her perspective is a little different right now.
Sure, I'm in an agreement. I might sound really annoyed right now because I find angel numbers to be so annoying.
No, they are annoying. Like
They
I'm
are
not denying that they're
so
annoying. They are, absolutely.
annoying. I have gotten to the point where, okay, let's start at the beginning. Ever since I was a child, I would always see 11 and 11. Like, actually, 11 is one of my favorite numbers. It actually might be my favorite number. Like, in when I played sports, my sports numbers were usually 5 or 11. And so those were just my kind of like my 2 numbers, and, I still love both of them to this day. But it got to the point where it's like I would just see 1111 all the time, like, almost to the point where it was in my like, has anyone ever heard of, like, the internal clock? Like, if you just, like, wake up every day at the same hour, it's like, doesn't matter if you set an alarm, it's just your internal clock will just wake you up at that same time. It got to
Yeah.
that point with 1111 for me. Like, I would see it, like, obviously I was a kid, so I would just see it in the morning, but as I became like an adult, I would see 11:11 morning and evening, and I still do to this day. It's just like it's built into my eternal clock, it's built into my DNA. That's fine. I don't care if I see 11:11, that's fine. But for the past, I don't know, few years, I would say that all the other numbers just won't leave me alone. Like 111, 222, 333. And it doesn't have to be like the three numbers in a row. Like, you can see sequences like I see 808 all the time.
Right.
And
Yes.
so it doesn't have to be just like the 111, 222s. I got to the point where it's like at first I was just like, okay, there's obviously a message here. And so, like, I would hit the internet and I would just read what the internet has to say. But I have to tell you, those are all very standard. And like, most of the time for me personally, none of that shit resonated for me. So then I was just like, huh, okay. So now that none of this is resonating, what is happening? So Tiara had introduced me into using tarot because, I know tarot. And I was just like, oh, okay, well, I'll probably get a different interpretation than what I can find online. So I started doing that. And sometimes it would make sense. Sometimes it wouldn't make sense. Obviously, if it made sense, that's great. But the ones that didn't, I was just like, okay, well, maybe it will come later. And so it was kind of always in the back of my mind. And then there were times that I actually extracted the message and I know what they want me to do. But then I was like, well, I don't want to do that. So, for free will and all, I made the personal choice not to heed that guidance. And guess what? The angel numbers fucking came back. And I was just like, "Ugh, you are not going to leave me alone about this, are you?" And I just got to a point where it's like, I have free will. I'm choosing not to address this right now. So leave me alone. And they were just like, okay, fine. You cannot heed that guidance. However, we're not going to leave you alone. So I kind of just got into this rhythm where I see angel numbers to this day. Like, I was telling Tiara, like, I saw 222 today, 333 today, 444 today. And I've just gotten to the point where it's like, I might know what the message is and choose to ignore it, or there's a new message in there for me, and no disrespect to the universe, but I just don't give a shit because I don't have the time and the energy to put into extracting all of these messages.
Hey, if that's how you want to go about it, I think that's perfectly fine. Everyone has their different ways of, going about angel numbers. I do want to clarify about 1111 because I feel like that's the one that people see most often, most frequently, particularly those who like are being nudged towards a spiritual journey or are on one. And there actually is a meaning behind 1111. I don't know how true this is, but it resonated to me when I looked it up. Um, it's supposed to be representative or reflective of the universal sign for spiritual awakening, right? So typically, if you see 1111, that's your wake up call. Hey, I am on a very specific journey. I'm being told that, you know, what does this mean for me? Is one way that you can look at it. Now, depending on how deep you want to go, because we can go deep with this, some people are of the belief that angel numbers are numbers and they're numeric because we live in a matrix. And the way that information is shared in a matrix is through numerology and numbers, which makes total sense, right? So I think, and this, this feels like truth to me. I think one of the reasons why oftentimes we see numbers is because that's the universe's way, like basic way of communicating to us, because we live in this simulation that uses numbers as its base form of structure and communication.
And it's not just that, like, the universal language of the entire universe is numbers, it's math.
Yes. Yes. Totally mathematic. Totally. If you like look into things like sacred geometry, there's a lot of information in regards to that, and it all ties together. It's actually really really fascinating. Uh,
Indeed.
yeah. So for that, for 1111, I think ultimately that's what that specific set of numbers means. Now, if you're seeing things like 111 and 1111, it could mean something else. I know that for me, 111 has meant like you are a master manifester. Pay attention to your thoughts and pay attention to the energy that you're putting out there, because you're getting it back. I also know that 11 is considered a master number, like not just 11, but also 22, 44, 66, so on. Those are all technically considered master numbers, and they're tied to karma. And particularly for 11, for me initially in my journey, it meant pay attention. Pay attention, wake up, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. I know for others, it could also mean things like you're on a, a path, a spiritual path related to being like an illuminator or a messenger or like a teacher of some sorts. It could also mean that you're on a path towards merging with your higher self, um, for that number specifically. What I have referenced, and I don't know if other people use this site. I know I have sent this site to Ali before, but there's a blog spot called Sacred Scribes angelnumbers.blogspot.com, and it's an index of every single angel number. Now, I don't think it's been updated for like the better part of a decade, but if you're frustrated and you're just like, oh my God, I just need a starting place for some of these numbers, you can go to this blog spot, and there's a whole index from single digit numbers, so like from one all the way down to 9999, and it'll give you what each of those numbers means. Uh, I wouldn't take this at face value, because ultimately I think that angel numbers are very specific to each individual. And I know some people who I've seen TikToks about this. Some people who will go to their guys and they will be like, okay, if you're going to show me these, can we use like coded language? So, like, if it's 111, it means this. If it's 444, it means this. And that has worked for some people. So, if
Yeah, that
you're,
shit has never worked for me.
well, for some people, it seems to have. So, if you're like wanting a technique or a method, that's one thing you can do. I think the best way to go about angel numbers personally is to just divinate on each number. So, like, if you're seeing 10 different sets of numbers, divinate on each one or get someone who can do it for you. So, at least you're getting some clarity about what they mean.
I agree with that. It was it's like I just said in my little rant. What I was finding online just didn't resonate. It's really important for you when you look into this stuff to make sure that it resonates with you, because I have met people who see angel numbers, and a lot of the things that are printed online, like, you have to understand, like, this is very general information, and a lot of it is very light and fluffy and positive.
Right, right.
And that's why I'm just like, don't I wouldn't follow it, because not all messages are light and fluffy and positive. Like, some messages are like, "Hey, get your shit together." And you don't find that kind of message like on these standard like angel number websites.
Yes. And like, I will admit to using the angel number websites, especially if I just had no direction and no clue whatsoever, to at least point me in a direction. Sometimes it has resonated, sometimes it hasn't. But ultimately, those numbers are going to be very specific to you and your circumstance. So, one person might be seeing 111 for one reason, but you might be seeing it for a completely different reason. And so that's why oftentimes these sites and like pages that have stuff like that aren't really reliable. But if you're just like, hey, can I at least get a direction? It could help. For me, it did help me when it came to like figuring out some of the stuff, but ultimately I had to divinate to get like actual answers and figure out that there was a pattern to some of the stuff I was seeing and that it would pop up again if I needed to readdress the issue. Interesting thing about like some of that stuff, like the fluffy stuff. I see a lot of that on YouTube because I'm sure a lot of you guys probably do this too. I watch a lot of tarot readings on YouTube. I've been doing it for years. It's really entertaining. It's really fun. I love seeing all the pretty decks. Some people are really entertaining. Um, I watched one girl. She is my absolute favorite, and her name is Iso Tarot. Giving her a little shout out. She hasn't sponsored us or anything. I just love her, and she taps into my frequency really, really well, and she's hilarious. So I like watching her. Uh, but some of these other readers, I feel like they do readings, and it's like everything's positive, and they don't read reversals, and all the cards are just like pretty, beautiful, uplifting messages. And some of these guys have like 500,000 followers or views on some of these videos. And I'm just like, I can't imagine that anyone is getting profound, deep wisdom out of some of these readings. Like, it's just like, oh, you're beautiful and everything's going to work out fine. And your life is just a fairy tale and everyone's on your side and you're doing great. And I'm just like, okay, well, what do I need to work on? What are my blockages? What are my shadows? Are we going to talk about that? So I see a lot of those readers on YouTube, and for whatever reason, they get the most views, and it makes me insane. It makes me
Well, the
insane.
because I have the listen. It's because people I understand why readers do that. I understand the appeal to it because no one wants to be told how shitty their life is, and people don't want to be told that there's things that they need to work on. I think for the most part, or for the majority of people, they know that maybe their situation isn't ideal and they know that that they may need to work on things, but they're choosing not to work on those things. And so, sometimes when you just want to escape that and not be reminded of your failures or negativity or things that you need to work on, like I understand the appeal of wanting to go to these tarot readers and be like, you know what? I just want to hear like a fuck ton of positive, uplifting messages. I'm not
No, and
knocking that. I totally respect that. However, you are not doing yourself a service by ignoring all of the shadow work that needs to be done.
right, absolutely. And no, I completely get the appeal in fluffy readings. I get the appeal. I understand that appeal. And some of us just want a fantasy and some of us just want to escape. And I will admit to doing that with some of the love readings, especially some of the sexy ones, because there are like YouTube ratings that are like really spicy, sexy, like, oh, what does he want to do to you in the bedroom? And I'm just like, oh, yes. So like I get the appeal when you want that fantasy. But at the end of the day, like all of your readings shouldn't be that. Like, you know what I mean? Like mix it up a little bit. Like try to really get to the core of some of the things that you need to shift to find peace and happiness. Like, so I mean that's just my perspective on it. I just think it's kind of funny that these guys have these massive followings and it's just nothing but fluff and rainbows. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, well, that's what a lot of spirituality is. And that's how a lot of people are presenting spirituality, which is why we have gone against the grain in previous episodes too, and was like, it's not all love and light. You were not going to send if you do not do the shadow work. There are so many like misconceptions and misinformation and disinformation being spread out there where people enter into spirituality and they think like, oh, this is going to be so beautiful and I'm going to find my authentic self and I'm just going to do it through love and light. And I'm just like, no, that's not how it works. And
Spiritual bypassing.
it's spiritual bypassing. And like Tiara and
Yes.
I get so frustrated with this spiritual community. And, as a spiritual podcast and as we are spiritual people, it's like we wanted to make a mission to talk about the truth behind the spiritual journey, because it's not an easy journey. It takes an insane amount of mental fortitude. It is dark, it is hard, and the spiritual journey is not for the weak. I've said it before, I'm going to say it
Right.
again. It is not for the weak. This is a journey that goes into the deepest, darkest depths of you, and you have to face all of your failure, rejection, abandonment. You have to face all that shit head on and accept that we're not perfect and that we've been wronged, and like try not to play the victim and try to find forgiveness and passion and compassion and love and light through all of that darkness. And that is the only way you are going to ascend.
Right. Well, and that's the reason why we did a whole series on inner child wounding, because if you're on this journey and you're doing any kind of healing, you're going to have to look at that inner child wounding. I know it wasn't our most popular series. I know people don't like some of that heavier stuff because it is hard. But we're not going to sugarcoat this journey for you guys. We've never done that. And so that's why we did that series. And if you don't want to listen to it, that's okay. But it's going to be there for you when you're ready to. Speaking of that, we're talking about angel numbers. Honestly, I think that angel numbers should be looked at as an additional tool to assist you on your spiritual journey. I know they're annoying and they get, they can drive you insane. It's done that to me before too. But it might help to look at these numbers as just another method guiding you on your ascension journey. Because once you start to explore why those numbers are there, other things are going to start to make so much sense to you.
Sometimes.
I'm sorry,
Sometimes.
sometimes.
It doesn't always make sense. It doesn't. I mean, listen, I am very good at extracting messages. Like it's actually kind of one of my skills. And I still get shit, and I was like, I don't know what this means, and I don't have the time or the energy to figure it out right now. So it's going on the back burner.
Well, I could have sworn that we extracted the meaning out of one of those
Yeah,
and that we
yeah,
addressed it, but you're still getting but you're
right.
still getting the same numbers. And I'm just like, I don't understand either.
Right. And I think it's because, so I'm pretty sure one of the messages was you need to travel. And I've been to this place. This is why, like, this is part of my whole frustration with it is I have been there multiple times, and they were like, okay, well, you need to go back. And I was just like, okay, it's really expensive to go back. I've been there. You guys want me to waste time, energy, money going back to a place I've already been. And they were pretty much like, yeah, we want you to go back. And so I just put it off because I was like, this trip is not cheap. It's not easy to get there. I don't want to go back. I've been. And they were like, yeah, we don't care. You have to go back. And so that's what I was avoiding. And they've been trying to get me back for over 3 years. And now I'm finally going next month. And I made a deal with the universe. You can't bug me about this anymore. I'm not like, if I would go back, it's because I want to go back, not because you continue to tell me you have to go back.
Allie has beef with the universe sometimes.
Oh, so do you. Don't even go there. You do too.
Well, yeah, but it's mostly fear.
Yeah, Tiara is terrified of the universe.
I told you. Told you. But like, yeah. So no, I could have sworn that we had that solved, and apparently we don't. But
No,
like,
it's because, and we even we channeled it, and they were like, yeah, it's because you're not there yet. We don't care that you have booked everything. We just care that you're not physically there yet. And I was like, it's booked. And they were like, yeah, it doesn't matter. And I was just like, what do you want from me? This is just ridiculous.
no, I'm not gonna lie, that is kind of ridiculous.
Thank you.
I'm gonna back you up a little bit there. I'm gonna go hide later. But no, I get that. And like, I don't know, sometimes the numbers are that detailed and they're very, very, very specific, and they're not going to stop showing themselves to you until you do exactly what it is they're telling you to do, which I could see why that would drive you crazy. I completely understand. Um, but no, I thought that was interesting that we tried to extrapolate that and it had like no effect. That doesn't typically happen.
No, because it would, and when we followed up on it, I'm pretty sure the message was, it's, well, we're happy you booked, but we would prefer that you be there right now.
Right.
Oh, okay. But it's planned, it's booked. I'm not backing out. And they were like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like, we want you there sooner.
No, they're
Oh,
serious. Like
okay.
really, really serious about that.
Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous.
So you know what I noticed, and I think this is so fascinating. I've dove. I hate what is with me in this word. Dived, dove
Well,
into.
I think dove is like past tense, right? It's like I dove in
But can't
or
you
I
also say
dived
dived?
in. Yeah,
Can't you
I
say
think,
dived?
yeah, I dived in.
Right. You can say either. So that's why I'm just anyway.
Yeah.
Um, I was looking a little bit into sacred geometry today, and Allie, I was looking into Metatron's cube and what it means, and it's so like fascinating because
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say Metatron and I, like, a while back ago, before I had
right,
even met all the archangels, I had a whole conversation with Metatron about his cube, and it was
right.
fascinating.
It is so fascinating. I'm not going to share like all of that stuff on here because I want you guys to dive into it and look into it. But essentially, it's visual representation of uh, like the blueprints of the universe, essentially. Particularly the different like aspects that make up like the physical and like everything that exists in the universe. Outside of that, there's some other interesting stuff, particularly something called the oh my god, I'm gonna destroy this Fibonacci sequence. Did I say it right?
You did. It's the Fibonacci sequence. It's actually really funny because Tiara was like, "Yeah, we're going to talk about sacred numbers," and I was just like, "I'm not exactly sure what that is." And then she started like listing all the numbers, and I was like, "You're talking about the Fibonacci sequence," and she was like, "How did you know that?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just did."
Full disclosure, I hate math. I have always hated math. I was never good at math.
I like math.
Oh my god, math was
I'm.
my enemy.
I know it is. You should hear Tiara math sometimes. I
Yeah,
could
don't
tell you
ask me
some
to math.
stories.
But this stuff I could get into because it's more it's there's like this spiritual aspect to it in some ways. And this particular sequence is it's a sequence of numbers that makes a spiral. But the list of the first initial numbers are 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, and 34. Essentially, what you're doing is you're adding up the two numbers before the next number to get the next number. These are the same numbers that you will often see when you see angel numbers. They're typically the numbers tied to the Fibonacci sequence in some way or numbers on that sequence. And I think it's so fascinating because it demonstrates how everything's connected. Like, you know what I mean? Um, and I talked about a little bit earlier about how we exist in a matrix. I don't think I really went into detail about what I mean about that. Some people think we do, some people think we don't. Essentially, what I mean is just I think that our physical existence in 3D is an illusion, and that it's held together by different factors that we just don't fully comprehend or understand. Um, some people are on board with that, some people are not. I am. I know a lot of people in the spiritual community tend to agree with that. If not, it's completely fine. You'll still see these numbers if you are seeing angel numbers. Again, typically numbers that are on or connected to the Fibonacci sequence in some way. So I just thought that was really fascinating because we live in this society where we exist in the illusion that we're all separate and that we're all apart and that we're all individuals. And that can't be further from the truth. We're all connected. We're all one, you know? And one of the reasons why people like Ali and I can channel is because we tap into that connected nature of the universe and of consciousness, and we can communicate to it. And honestly, I think a lot of people can do that at some level if they want to get to that. But, that's stuff that you need to ascend into, because as you ascend, your gifts start to show themselves to you. You start to connect more deeply to the universe. So I just thought that was really fascinating.
And speaking of that, if any of you are familiar with the 12 universal laws, like the first universal law is literally we are all one, like
Right.
oneness.
Yes.
So, like going back to Tiara's point and what she was just saying is that I mean, it's the first law for a reason of the 12 universal laws. And so there's so much truth and profound knowledge behind that, and really as you start to shift your consciousness and unlock some of this meaning, it just opens you up to a whole new world of possibilities. And that's why the spiritual journey, as difficult as it is, like all of the knowledge that becomes unlocked as you ascend, everything becomes more clearer and you start to feel more connected and things just start to make sense more. And also on the flip side of that, it's like it can also be terrifying because you're just like, wow, everything I thought I knew or who I thought I was, like none of that is real. None of that really matters. And that's like when through the spiritual process, like you start to realize we do live in a matrix and this is a simulation and none of this shit around us is real. Like it's real to a certain level because it's our reality and we live in it,
Yeah.
but it's doesn't make up solely who we are.
Right. Right. I think you explained it way better than I did. That your experiences in this matrix don't define you or make up who you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's yeah. I took a stab at it.
No, I mean, you were right on the money.
Thanks.
So I have a question for you about the universal laws. Do you know who wrote those?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I don't remember. I do know that answer, but I don't know it on top of my head. So we'll have to follow up.
Oh man, okay. I'm gonna add that to the list of we know what we should do is add that to the list of channeled questions.
Yes, we should. We have to do a channeling session. It's been a while.
It has been. Unfortunately, I haven't been in the best energetic states because of slowly drifting towards burnout, which is so funny because here I am creating a healing program on burnouts while I'm burning out. I didn't actually mean to go in that direction. I was just trying to get some stuff off the ground before this trip that I'm taking with Ali, and I had a timeline set, and the universe did what the universe does and started to cock block all of my efforts. And when I say cock block, I mean like random stuff that shouldn't be an issue would become an issue. So, for example, I want to generate a leads campaign on Instagram to get some people interested, get them on my email list to send them information about me and my program. So, in order to do that, I needed to subscribe to an email marketing platform, and I chose ConvertKit just because I've used them before and I really like them. And I've used them before and done all of this stuff before with no problem. Like signed up, set up my email lists, got my link to my landing page. I'm good to go. Boom. For whatever reason, it didn't go that way this time because they wanted to verify my email, but the verification emails wouldn't come, right? So then they were like, oh, well, you need to go and get verification manually through your hosts, through your website hosts. And I was like, okay, I've never had to do that before. Kind of annoying, but I'll do that. And then that ended up being an issue. And I was like, okay, this isn't working. And then I had to go to my website hosts and say, hey, what's going on? This stuff's not working. And they were like, oh, well, your email address isn't configured properly. And I'm just like, what? Like, why is this an issue? This is ridiculous. Can you fix it? And they're like, okay. So I went to test it after a day and it still didn't work. So I had to go back to them and say the same thing. hey, this email address that I have that you guys gave me for my business isn't working. Can you fix it? And they're like, okay. Well, we didn't fix it last time, but we'll fix it this time. It's set up. All right, cool. Still was having issues. And after a while, I was just like, you know what? What is going on here? Like, this doesn't feel right. Nothing is flowing the way it should be. I have all these goals and ambitions with this, and I want to start generating some income and really get our name out there with our podcast, but I keep running into roadblocks and they don't make sense. So I think I went and pulled some cards, and the general message I got was like, there's some other things you need to focus your energy on. It wasn't necessarily like you're burning out. It was just like your energy is misdirected right now. And I was like, oh, okay, well, fuck you. So so I went back and I was like, well, maybe I just need to put more energy into this. So I put more energy into it.
She doubled down.
I doubled down on it. Um, and we were having issues with one of our advertising platforms for the podcast. Like they flagged my account for suspicion or something like that.
I had no problem getting through today.
So I went through the process that they said. They were like, okay, well, you need to do this verification process to reverse the suspension. And I was like, okay. So I did it, and we were still suspended. And I was like, well, what the heck? Let me do it again. So I did it again, and we were still suspended. And I was like, you know what? This is ridiculous. I don't know what's going on. Okay, this is just I'm being cockblocked everywhere. You know what, Ali? Here, I don't feel like dealing with this. Take it. If you can fix it, great. If not, we'll figure it out. So I handed it over to Ali, who for some reason had no problem resolving the issue, and I'm still a little irritated. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, it was so funny. Like she was like, we have to contact them. And I was like, okay, so call them. And she was like, there's no phone number.
Right. On my end, I could not, for the love of God, I could not find a phone number. The only thing I found was they were like, okay, well, you could send us, a message through here by going through the verification process. But if you're having issues, then you can use WhatsApp. But WhatsApp connected to this other tool that you have to download. And I was just like, you know what? I don't.
I didn't have to download anything. I just went to the issue and I found the phone number and I called. I got on the phone. I was on the phone with them for 20 minutes. Like that's how fast it was. Like they connected me through. I explained what happened. The first guy I connected to was like, hey, you're in the wrong department, but let me transfer you. And I was like, cool. I was on hold for maybe 2 minutes, got on the line with the other guy. I explained what happened. He was like, give me a couple minutes. I'm going to create a ticket for you. I was like, cool. And then like after 5 minutes of that, he was just like, tickets all set up. I'm just waiting to hear a response from them. And then when I do hear a response, I will reach out to you. And that was it.
Yeah, no, my last 2 days have been nothing but technology, cock blocking, like to the degree I have never seen before. And then Ali was like, I think you're starting to burn out here. And I think the universe is sending you a message. And to my credit, like I knew that I was being sent a message and I knew that it was probably related to how fast I was moving, but I didn't care. I just wanted stuff taken care of. I wanted it done. I wanted it set up. But eventually it sunk in, and I was like, okay, I'm being cockblocked for a reason. The universe sent me a message. Let me move back my program. I'm going to launch a burnout recovery program. Let me move that back. So I did that, set aside my pride, by the way, to do that, and pushed it back and was like, all right, let me just take a step back here and chill, reconfigure myself, find balance again. Because I admit that I was getting imbalanced and that I was probably starting to shift towards burnout. But
oh, you absolutely were. You absolutely were.
Yeah, I'm just one of those people that like when I have a vision, like I push towards it like at all costs. Like it needs to be set up. I put goals in place and milestones and timelines and I stick to it. And so that's what I was trying to do, but apparently the universe didn't like that. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna take a break for a couple days and see where that gets me.
Which I think is a fantastic idea. I have something similar, but I wasn't cut off in the 3D like Tiara was. I was kind of cut off in the 5D because I pushed myself really hard last year. And here's the thing, I was thinking back on that experience last year and I was just like, so I knew my final destination in my ascension process, and I accomplished it in like 12 months, which is insane. And on top of all of that, and on top of all of my healing and my personal ascension, I was dealing with all of Tiara's family drama. And I was like kind of involved in that. And it just like was non-stop. And shortly after this year, like they were just like, you need a break. And they didn't even tell me I needed a break. They just like turned things off. And I was just like, I feel different. I think I know why I feel different, but I definitely feel different. And
Right.
um I realize what they did and I realize why they did it, but I'm kind of bitter about it.
Same.
I shouldn't be bitter, but I am, because
I know.
I am the same way. Like when I know that I have a goal, I am that person that pushes myself just to get it done as quickly as possible. I don't need to be that person. It's just I have that drive and I have that motivation to do
S-
it.
Same.
And so I finally like got there and they were just like, yeah, you are also like at burnout. And I did get to burnout, and I understand why they did it. I still don't like it, but I'm taking the rest. I'm doing what I need to do, and it's going to come back soon. I can feel it. I think it's going to come back soon. It just depends on how well I can balance for the next like few weeks. Balance is
Right.
very important, people. Very, very important. It is everything. Balance is everything.
It is so important. And I will admit to not fully knowing full balance because my whole thing is, well, I know that I need to surrender and I know that the universe is going to take care of it for me, but I have to put in effort too to get to that space. So I do, and it ends up being too much. And I don't know how to like get to that place where it's just enough where I don't burn out because to me, it's never enough. So I don't know.
Well, you have a really hard time with surrendering.
Well,
You still
sure,
do.
but I mean, most of us do because, if you're driven like I am, like you want to put in the effort because that's important to you and you have that drive and that ambition to do so. So that's what I do. I put in the effort and stuff, knowing that the universe is going to support me, but I don't ever know if and when it's too much versus if it's not enough. Like I don't know. So I just go what I typically do, and it ends up getting me cockblocks.
You typically go full throttle, and then they're just like, yeah, no.
Right. So I guess I don't know how to not be full throttle.
That's a very important lesson to learn.
Yes, it is.
So, angel numbers are just essentially messages, and messages can come in many different forms, in many different ways, and the universe will speak to you, whether it's pleasant or not.
I'm trying to think if I saw angel numbers over these last few days, and
I've
I
seen them every fucking day, and I'm just like, you know
I know.
what? This is why, like, when we were discussing this episode, I was just like, yeah, I'm probably gonna sound really bitter and annoyed.
Right. Um, you're gonna probably hate me, but I don't think I did see any angel numbers when
Yeah,
I.
fuck you.
No, I
We're
don't.
just also bantering here, guys. Like, obviously, there's no negative sentiment. I love Tiara. I'm here to support her.
Yeah, no, I didn't see any, but that doesn't mean they weren't there. They probably were. I just was so focused on what I was focused on that I didn't notice it, which can happen too.
I would say most people don't notice them. Or if they do notice them, then they're just like, hey, look, 111. And then they move on with their day. They don't put thought into like, why did I just see 111? It's just like, cool, 111. Let's move on.
I used to do that. I used to be like, oh my gosh, 222, make a wish. And then move on with my day without a
Yeah,
care in the world.
exactly. See, that's what I'm saying. And I would say that The people who don't have any awareness or people who are not on the spiritual journey, they're probably just like, cool, 222 and move on. But then like people who are on the spiritual journey who like kind of seek them out because they like seeing them. Yeah, just so you know, there's a message there, good or bad, pleasant or not.
So I can't remember which month it was. I want to say it was last February, maybe, where I was waiting for it to be 222. No, no, wait, no, no, no. It wasn't 222. It was one of those months. I can't remember, but I was waiting for it to be like oh, maybe it was 11/11, 11/11 on 11/11 or something like that. Like it was a really really big deal, and I was at work at the time, and the entire office was waiting for this one moment so we could all capture it on our phones and talk about it.
I have
So
that
some
photo on my phone, speaking of that.
yeah.
I
Do you
actually
remember what it
had
was?
yeah, it was like it was 11/11 on 11 like on 11/11.
Right.
It was just like repeated 111 and I have the caption on my phone. I have the screenshot.
Yeah, and I don't know. Sometimes that stuff is fun and cool and like, kind of exciting. And I know like for us cuz I used to work at the clerk of the Superior Court, we would have like tons of weddings, like people coming in to get their marriage licenses and get married by justice of the peace on those repeating dates where it would be like, 12/12, 11/11, or like 2/22 or something like that. And they were so, so popular and we would be packed. So I know that there's like some type of significance that people connect to some of these numbers. I feel like mostly it's luck or like, love or happiness. I'm not quite sure, but we have some type of fascination with repeating numbers and we associate it with luck in many ways and in many cultures too. So I just thought that was really interesting that it was always such a big deal.
Well, I mean, we just discussed how math is literally the universal language, right? It's like that's why like all the alien movies and if you guys are into aliens, it's like if aliens are trying to reach out to you, they're going to communicate with numbers, right? That's just an example of how it is a universal language. But everything, I mean, if you ask some people, especially numerologists, I would love to sit down and actually have a conversation with like a person who's deep into numerology
Oh, I would love that
because
too.
it would be so fascinating to hear like how everything is connected through those numbers and like our birthdays matter. Our life paths matter. Like everyone has a life path number and our birthdays matter and like there's just numbers integrated to everything in our daily lives.
Right.
And so, I mean, really we're always communicating whether we even know it or not, but like life path numbers are significant, your birthday's significant, the time that you were born is significant. It's just all connected. Like people have been able to unlock their origins from like unlocking, their history specifically through numbers. So there's a
Right.
lot of fascinating stuff here.
Right. And that blows my mind that just from your birthday, you can like figure out your entire soul story. I'm just like, what?
Yeah, I don't know
Just
how to
from
do that.
numbers? Like, that's
But
crazy.
people know how to do that. And I
Yeah.
would love to like sit down and have a conversation with someone who is deep into that.
Yeah, that is a whole art form and it's fantastic stuff. I would love that too. So, hey, in the future you guys, you might hear someone who's a numerologist on here. So, stay tuned.
That would be so cool.
It would be very very cool. I've even seen I don't know where I saw this. I think I saw this on TikTok about people who can determine where you're supposed to live. Astrocartography, I think is what it's called.
I have a friend who has done that, and it tells you like where on this planet you would be most successful in your career. It also tells you where like your ideal mate is. And so there's different points on this planet where it's like you're supposed to meet like your ideal mate or a place where you're supposed to be like really successful in your career. And I'm just like, how do you just take a birth date and figure out coordinates and know where all these things are?
And it blows my freaking mind.
Same.
Right? Every single, yeah, it's just so fascinating. So that's going to be a whole rabbit hole.
We love rabbit holes. They are,
They're my
ugh,
favorite.
oh yeah. Yeah, it's actually really appropriate that like my name just so happens to be Allie because I'm just like, it's like I feel like Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
You know, I never made that connection before. That Allie could be short for Allison, or that Allie could be
Short for Alice.
right.
It's not, but I'm just saying like it's so my name is just so appropriate for like who I am.
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in again this week. We did talk in some of our previous episodes about how we're working on a community that's still going on. We're still putting together some fantastic content for you guys. So please do stay tuned. Again, no launch date at this time, but I am thinking late spring ish, maybe. For those of you guys in the West, for you guys here in Colombia, I guess that's just like anytime because it's like always spring here.
This is
Um,
so the city that like we're in just visiting right now is like it's called Medellin, and it's the city slogan is the city of eternal spring. It is perfect. It is perfection. This is why people are obsessed with the climate here because it's gorgeous.
La ciudad de primavera eternal. Ah, see, you know some Spanish.
She's working on it.
I am working on it. And Korean.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to say anything in Korean.
I was like, care to share?
Okay, wait. I think I know one. I think this is the Korean greeting. Ali can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
안녕하세요.
Yeah, that's right.
Haha. I know some Korean too. Getting there.
Yes. So we don't have a launch date yet. We are going to try to get that out. It's probably not going to happen before our trip, unfortunately. So I also don't know how long I'm going to be gone for. I the time difference between Korea and Colombia is definitely different. But I don't plan on stop work. I don't plan to stop working. I do plan on taking at least a few weeks off and just kind of zone out and be there because
Mm.
the universe is forcing me to go. But if I extend my trip, like I'm obviously gonna have to get back to work and we'll figure out stuff. But the community is definitely happening. I'm committed. I'm so excited. We've been working with these entities where we can actually share exclusive content. It's been a struggle. The struggle is real, but there's some mind blowing stuff, and we are so excited to share.
Yes, very much so. If there is any pause in posting of contents or episodes, we will let you guys know that in advance. What you'll probably see is a transition to season 2, which will be a different set of contents and topics for the podcast. So we will keep you guys updated in regards to what that might look like.
Yes. And also, I want to throw this out there for all our conspiracy lovers. If you are a conspiracy lover, we are planning this whole conspiracy coming up. Like, it might be sporadic, it might be just a whole series, but we would love to hear from you guys. We would love to hear your input because Tiara and I love conspiracies.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed.
Oh, we're both obsessed. Like
Oh, yeah.
to a point of maybe unhealthy because like only and I say that only because like we dig until we can't dig further. Like
Right.
we hit the bottom of the pot and we're like, "Hey, can we keep going?" And even the universe is like, "I think you guys have done enough."
Right. We've been turned around a couple times, but that's okay. We usually just find another one.
Exactly.
All right, you guys.
So thank you everyone. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I'm sorry if I was a little like annoyed. I am annoyed. I'm not going to hide that. I'm about being authentic on this. I'm sure there are others out there who also share our pain and the annoyance of angel numbers. However, they also are very light and beautiful, and I can't discredit that because there are beautiful messages there.
Yeah,
But it's important for us to share with you guys. Not everything is love and light.
that's true. That's true.
So thank you, everyone, and I hope you all have a great week. We have some exciting stuff in store, and I love doing this podcast.
Me too. It's always so fun.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.